When Jennifer became pregnant, everything was fine and perfect. But as soon as she went into labor, she was taken to operation room and everything changed. She started turning blue and the doctor pronounced her dead. But her husband did something incredible. Before we dive into this, give us a like, and if you're new to this channel, subscribe to get a chance to win Amazon card. Welcome back to OneTime channel. Alex and Jennifer were happy when they find out they're having a girl. They were looking forward to give their son the little sister he always wanted. Most night Alex and the little son took turns listening to the baby kick. As the pregnancy approached 40 weeks, the excited couple did some special shopping. However, in week 39 something unexpected happened. That morning Jennifer started having a mild contraction. Since it wasn't yet that serious, Alex took her. They headed to the hospital, laughing on the way. When they got there, the doctor waited for the contraction to increase and broke her water. That's when everything changed, well, for the worst. Jennifer started feeling dizzy, complained of feeling weak and nauseous, but nothing seemed to indicate anything was wrong. Then they realized how wrong they were. Right in front of them, Jennifer closed her eye and collapsed. Her heart rate slowed down and her blood pressure dropped to 0. As the seconds passed, she turned blue and can no longer breathe. At worst is the baby girl had not been born. The girl vital signs also began to drop. Things were getting out of control and the medical team knew they had to act quickly. They rushed her in for some tests. A scan showed she was suffering from an amniotic fluid embolism, a rare allergic reaction in which amniotic fluid entered the mother's bloodstream, and this caused the heart and lungs to shut down. While in the operating room, her condition worsened and the doctor pronounced her dead. But they still wanted to save the baby. While the doctor are trying to save the baby, Alex was left outside pacing around. They told him her condition was critical, that she would not survive. If she did, she would never be the same. This was all too much for Alex. He and Jennifer has spent the last few months waiting for the arrival of their baby, and suddenly he had to say goodbye. Just like that, he felt helpless and frightened, yet he prepared himself to say goodbye. But he couldn't let her go without putting up a fight, and he did it the only way he knew how. He go down on his knee and prayed the most heartwarming prayer he ever had to say. God, I know this is more than I can handle, which means you have a plan and a purpose in this, and I trust you. But please let me hug my wife again. He then contacted his family and friends, and those nearby rushed to the hospital. They all held hands and prayed. Each of them also shared their prayer request on social media and it was trending. While everyone waited in silence, Jennifer was in the operating room and doctors were struggling to revive her. Unfortunately, another team of doctors was able to save the baby. Out there, Alex still don't know if his wife would be able to see the precious baby she gave birth to. He had long heard of bittersweet experience, but only now he understands what that meant. He was more than happy for his little John, but also feared for the life of his beloved wife. After a while, the doctors managed to revive her, but she still had a weak pulse. After 48 hours, the doctor transferred Jennifer to the ICU, where they did everything possible to keep her breathing. Nevertheless, her health worsened. Jennifer's brother, who was a surgeon, heard of her terrible condition and rushed to the hospital. When he got there, he asked to see her record, and the result only made him panic. She was in a state of cardiovascular collapse. The news of the sad event reached to her family, who are still in waiting room, and they all accept that they might not see her again. It was very sad and frightening moments. But Alex wasn't ready yet, so he walked into his wife's room for the second time and said, I love you and will always love you, John and Mary are beautiful, but if you have any strength left to fight. Alex's faith was so strong that it changed everyone else's mind too. As much as everyone hoped that the sad situation would turn around, Jennifer's condition didn't improve. After a few hours, the medical team discovered something they had missed. After performing several series of scans, they discovered that she was bleeding internally because an organ had been cut by mistake. during the cesarean section. This explains why the blood transfusions didn't work. For the second time she was taken to the operating room dying. Her condition was much worse than the first time. Was there any hope left? From where she lay down unconscious, it looked like her whole body was giving up. Her heart was not pumping well, and her lungs had failed, and the only thing keeping her alive was a respirator. The surrendered doctors waited for the moment when she would take her last breath, but Jennifer held on. And when the doctors saw this, they concluded to move her to a better hospital. When they got there, the medical staff hooked her up to a machine called extracorporeal membrane oxygenation that would help restore her heart and lungs. They also needed to check her neurological function, so they lowered the level of sedation to the point where she regained consciousness. Just as she did, Alex walked into the room and said, "Hello, dear," smiling, even though her heart was breaking. Although Jennifer was still very weak. But what Alex did touched her somewhere deep inside, and a tear trickled down her eye. When the doctors saw this, they were stunned. It was a clear sign that he was not brain dead, as they thought. Suddenly, a strong wave of hope filled the air. Maybe he could survive. For the first time, the doctors were hopeful and prepared for the final surgery that can save her life. Shortly before the anesthesia was administered, Alex entered the room and showed her a picture of Mary. This awakened her maternal instinct. If she could have, she would have jumped out of bed to go see her princess. But before she could do anything, she was given anesthesia and became unconscious. The doctors began their work in the hope that she would pull through. And as expected, she came out of the operating room alive and well. Within 24 hours the ventilator was removed, and she was able to breathe on her own again. Later that night, her husband came into the room to see her, and it was an emotional reunion. Although Jennifer doesn't remember most of what happened, when her husband relived the moment, she was amazed and grateful to everyone who took the time to pray for her. The most beautiful part came when she was able to hold her baby in her hands. Everyone was fine and they were finally back home. What an incredible story. You can't imagine the amount of joy I felt knowing that Jennifer and her daughter survived. Have you ever survived something terrifying? How did it happen? Don't forget to subscribe, share the video, make it worth, and let people around you know. Welcome back to OneTime channel.